right, it's happening right today in Georgia. Get ready. Testimony in Donald Trump's election interference case could see Fani Willis disqualified over her relationship with the prosecutor she hired as the judge orders his former divorce attorney, Terrence Bradley, to take the stand. The judge expected to take issue with Nathan Wade's cell records showing thousands of interactions with Willis in 2021. Not only on the phone, you see the voice text, you see the texts. Fox News contributor, GW, George Washington University law professor, Jonathan Turley joins us now. Jonathan, the law partner went behind closed doors for an hour and 20 minutes. When the judge emerged, he said, we're going to have to see this front and center. What do you think he was looking for, and what do you think he found?
Well, the judge has been very cautious about privilege. This is a very odd profile for a witness. You know, he was the former partner and also the former lawyer for Nathan Wade in a divorce proceeding. And the judge wanted to make sure that he could speak to questions as an individual witness and not as counsel to trip those wires. He apparently is satisfied that he can. Now, the Willis team kept on preventing questions from the opposing counsel, who is trying to show that it was, in fact, this attorney that supported their original motion, that this relationship began long before Nathan Wade was hired. Now, whether we're going to finally see those questions answered is something we'll be watching closely today. But the case seems to be unraveling for Willis and Wade. In their testimony, there was a great deal of contradiction, particularly for Mr. Wade. Some of his earlier sworn statements appear to be irreconcilable with the facts that he later testified to. That's a nice way of saying that people believe he may have lied under the earlier sworn statements. That's pretty serious, because these two are prosecuting people for making false statements and filing false papers with courts.
And we can go so many different directions, but real quick. So Bradley's his partner and his divorce attorney. If he comes out and tells the truth that this relationship started earlier, that will corroborate what the former friend said when the relationship started, which shows she put her boyfriend in charge of a case, and they may or not use cash that she used to keep in her house because of what her dad told her, or not. And it shows that this former person who did wills and car accidents was in charge of prosecuting the former president of the United States. So I don't know, if I'm the president, former president, maybe I want these two, let's say, unskilled lawyers prosecuting me. Maybe the next people to come in might be competent.
Well, the problem, Brian, is that the original allegations are really fading away because more serious problems are now mounting. You know, if they committed perjury, if they filed false statements in court, they could face personal charges. They could be referred to the bar. I mean, the stakes are very high here. They thus far have not been able to answer some of those questions.
Some totally different, but I want to get you to weigh in on this. This former editor at the New York Times, now with the Atlantic, wrote this about what he was doing at the New York Times. He feels bad about it. He says, our goal was supposed to be a journalist, to be a journalistic rather than activist. This I learned in my 2 years at the Times is not the goal that everyone shared. Take the Hunter Biden laptop story. Was it truly unsubstantiated on paper? Kept saying, as many kept saying, many of my colleagues were clearly worried that lending credence to the laptop story could hurt the electoral prospects of Joe Biden and the Democrats. So you talk about media being in the pocket, we assume it. Now we're getting confirmation on it. And the story is really long in the Atlantic on things that were compromised. But then New York Times was an advocate for Joe Biden, clearly.
Well, this is just the latest such article. We've had previous editors talk about the bias at the New York Times and how it has become an effective state media outlet for the Biden administration. The problem is that this is coming out of J School. All these journalism schools are teaching reporters that objectivity is no longer the foundation of journalism, that advocacy is. And you see that come out in his descriptions in these sort of communal meetings. meetings, where he's even attacked because he said he liked Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and that resulted in just gasps in this thing. That's the sort of ridiculous point we have come to. But the media is sawing on the branch upon which it is sitting by replicating this orthodoxy and bias in the media.
Go get him, Jonathan Turley. We'll look forward to getting your analysis post-game show today in the afternoon on the Georgia case. Thank you.
It's a tale of two border trips. Joe Biden and Donald Trump making dueling visits to the besieged border in Texas and seeing two different realities. On the left, President Biden wrapping up remarks in Brownsville after shuffling his way around a sanitized version of the border. The area he's in once saw 10,000 illegals a day, but thanks to the Texas razor wire he wants to remove, crossings are at an all-time low. Here's the president.
Folks, it's real simple. It's time to act. It's long past time to act. They desperately need more resources, need more agents, more officers, more judges, more equipment in order to secure our border. Folks, it's time for us to move on this. We can't wait any longer. Folks, the bipartisan border security deal is a win for the American people. And it's a win for the people of Texas, and it's fair for those who legitimately have a right to come here to begin with. It's a win for the people of Brownsville, and I believe that's why the Border Patrol Union endorsed it.
And on the right, former President Trump was touring Eagle Pass, Texas, at the section of the border that's been bombarded by hordes of illegals. It was a big contrast to Sleepy's visit. Within the last 5 days, Biden's Brownsville has seen just 46 migrant encounters, while Trump's Eagle Pass has been rocked by over 2,000. The former president getting a tour from Texas Governor Greg Abbott and letting it rip.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion. Now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. And I'll say this, it's a military operation. I mean, we have this is like a war.
So Donald Trump said her name. I don't believe Joe Biden said Laken Riley's name, but the way he's making this into a military invasion really hits home with a lot of people and should be effective.
Well, I think it was right on point, especially for this moment, because what America is seeing and hearing about are these horrific crimes. And Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, talked about it right after former President Trump spoke. And he talked about a 2-year-old being shot in the face, a 14-year-old being stabbed at knife point, another individual, all illegals in this country, stabbing a man that had so much blood on him, not counting the blood of the man that he was stabbing. Look, we are at a very critical point in this country where it almost isn't about just the border anymore. And I still, Jesse, I don't understand why Joe Biden went to Brownsville and then he's claiming, oh, we got to do something about the border. 6 people came across yesterday. You know, he could have said, hey, I solved the border issue. But OK, so he comes down and he goes to a place in Brownsville where 6 people came through. Right now, the American people are more concerned about who is coming through. There is a person from El Salvador who came into this country 4 times, and there was a red notice. A red notice means that the country of El Salvador has issued a worldwide alert for this individual. They are that dangerous. And this person has come in and out of the United States 4 times. He was deported once and then came back 4 times. A red alert from El Salvador for an MS-13 gang member. They kill to get into the gang. So what you've got today are these, it's almost like the tale of 2 cities. One guy standing there saying, you know, it's about politics. We got to come together. And the other guy saying, guys, you want to talk about an existential threat? It's not climate change, and it's not the nuclear war. It is immigration that is impacting every person in this country by countries that are literally emptying their jails and emptying their mental institutions based not upon discrimination, but what we're seeing.
Jessica, why doesn't Joe Biden just do something with executive power to just shut everything down?
Also tonight, Joe Biden continues to lag far behind former President Trump in the polls. Look at this new Harvard-Harris poll. Donald Trump now leads Biden nationwide by 6 points. One big reason for that is Biden's disastrous open borders agenda. That is now obviously wreaking havoc in every town, every city, all across the country. According to a new Monmouth poll, well, most Americans say illegal immigration is a, quote, very serious problem, and it gets worse because another poll released just last week found that just 26% of Americans approve of Joe Biden's job on immigration. And frankly, even that number seems high. Now, since day one in office, Joe Biden has worked to undo every single Trump-era policy that was handed to him, the most secure border ever inherited in the modern age in our history. But anyway, with the stroke of a pen within the first 100 days, well, Joe Biden revoked Donald Trump's efforts to exclude illegal immigrants from the census. He strengthened DACA. He stopped all border wall construction. He ended Trump's interior enforcement rule, ended the Remain in Mexico policy that was working, ended asylum agreements with El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and let, Title 42 expire. Now, he can reinstate all of those policies just as simply, just as easily as he undid them with the stroke of a pen. And now, after years of aiding and abetting the rampant law breaking at our southern border, well, now, after 3 years of lying, the White House announced that Biden, wow, out of nowhere, he's going to visit the border for just the second time, although the first time, I would argue, wasn't really a visit, and it's going to happen this Thursday. And how convenient. Well, it is the same day that former President Trump will be touring the border himself. By the way, we have a major announcement on this front later in the show. But wait, the Biden White House, they have been telling all of us, the American people, just like they tell the American people, Joe does more in an hour than the average American does in an entire day. Anyone believe that? Or I never spoke to Hunter, my brother, or anybody for that matter about their foreign business deals. But I think they're biggest lie was about our border. The border is closed. The border is secure. They said it over and over and over again. Shall we remind you? Take a look.
Sounds to most folks like a crisis.
Well, look, it's way down now. We've now gotten control.
Precisely that. The border is closed.
Nor could I have been clearer and continue to be so, which is the border is closed.
The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
The border, we are working to make the border more secure.
You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
We agree that the border is secure.
They've been pushing that lie to you, the American people, for 3 long years. Only recently has that now evolved into blaming Republicans for Joe lying and saying, he's done everything, I've done everything I could possibly do, he said. Why won't Republicans help me? Now, he, Mayorkas, and Kamala Harris, they now blame Republicans for their failed policies. Is this some kind of cynical joke? You decide.
Do you bear responsibility for what is happening at the border, what the president himself has called a crisis?
It certainly is a crisis, and we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system. But fundamentally, Congress is the only one who can fix it.
Oh, I've done everything I could do? Really? You caused the problem. You didn't have the problem when you got into the White House. Now, this strategy doesn't appear to be working. Donald Trump is now surging ahead of Biden in nearly every key swing state. That would be Michigan and Wisconsin and North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia.